It's the 31st of January, 2025. Coming up on today's Global Intelligence Agency Operations Report. Old covenants surface as we move forward with current adjustments. Apparently, the Black Magician had plans if his agreements were ever terminated. And the real story behind the Blackhawk-American Airlines midair collision. And as January comes to a close, so does the deep state's window to perform on their promises. Well, we made it to the end of January, folks. As I said, it was going to be a bumpy ride, and bumpy it has been. I apologize for missing Wednesday's report. I was quite busy for many hours on Wednesday, and really haven't slept much since. So hopefully, as of tomorrow morning, we'll have rounded the bend of where we need to be. And that's the most important thing. So we'll get into that in just a little bit. But first, I wanted to take a few moments and go over some regular news. Things have gotten a little bit crazy out there with this new Trump administration. It's not, by administration, I mean Trump operatives, known as Duck Dynasty. Apparently, there are some really crazy executive orders coming out, and some of that is obviously affecting average, everyday Americans. There are talks about union workers going on strike or retiring early. In our field messenger report earlier today, there was someone that actually received a notice who does work in a government department to retire early, or an offer to retire early. So there's a lot that they're doing that makes no sense. I did tell you that if they were going to falter, if governments were going to falter, the first thing they were going to do was to cut off all humanitarian services provided by the government. In this particular case, we are talking about right now, it seems like Medicare and Social Security are not on that list, but government grants, you'll probably see some effects with student loans or student grants. You're going to see some effects as far as probably the EBT programs or food assistance programs. I know that that is on the chopping block right now, and there are a number of other services that the government provides to people that are on very rocky ground right now. They think that by doing this, they're going to save some money. There's not enough money to save because there's no savings to save at this point, and things are going pretty belly up pretty quick. There are rumors going around behind the scenes that if they don't do something with the banking system very soon, that the banking system is going to falter. Now, by banking system, we are not talking about you, meaning your bank accounts, your ability to use an ATM machine, to pay with a debit card or a credit card at your local grocery store if you are in the United States. We're not seeing that yet, and we're not going to see that if we have anything to say about it. But what is faltering is the system that you never got to take a part in, meaning the MERS system, which is the mortgage system where they sold derivatives off your mortgage and created several mortgages off your one mortgage, and leverage. We are also seeing some major falterings with holdings of companies like BlackRock and Vanguard. They are delaying loan payments. There is quite a bit of stir as it relates to boards of banks. As an example, one of the things that we're seeing today is the boards of the banks. This would be Wells Fargo, Bank of America, JP Morgan Chase, and I think it's Bank of New York Mellon and a few other larger banks here in the United States are very confused at the moment. You see, the contingencies based on the promises that were made are not coming through. They were told that by noon today they would have some answers. They were told by 3 p.m. today they would have some answers, and this is Eastern time. And they were also told that the meeting is now going to be pushed off until tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. Eastern time. And right now they all seem a bit confused. They have no idea where they're going or what they're doing. Are they going to wait in rank and file for these people to perform some kind of magical function? Probably. It doesn't look like they're going to talk to anybody. But as it relates to the actual banking system that we care about as people, I'm not seeing that changing much anytime in the near future. They're making money on your money and leveraging and all the income that they used to make for their genetic shareholders. Yeah, now on the other hand, that looks pretty grim at the moment. Their ability to leverage against production contracts and other things of that nature are extremely, you could say, limited, and in some cases, you could say non-existent. The way that they do high level lending in the commercial sector is also faltering quite a bit. There are many operatives that were expecting a big paycheck today and a big payout for services rendered in the past or in the present. And of course, that didn't happen. Matter of fact, they did not get on any of those calls at 12 and 3. I think probably by 4:45, I think some people actually came to the phone. So I didn't hear a whole lot of anything except for a bunch of yelling and screaming that there's a crisis going on, and they can't make it to the call, and they tried to send in other people. But there are others that are saying, oh, well, we'll wait. We'll wait. And I don't think this is going to end real well. They are trying to also reschedule that call till 10 a.m. tomorrow Eastern Standard Time, hoping that something is going to happen because we're still within the 3-day window of the new moon. Yes, if you happen to be watching this and you are an operative, you are waiting for a 3-day new moon window in a hope of somehow the moon's position helping them out in some way. So we'll get into the deeper aspects of that in a minute and why I wasn't here on Wednesday, but we're still continuing with regular news. That being said, by the time Asia wakes up this morning, because they were also promised money by today/tomorrow in their time, all heck is going to be breaking loose. Between now and Monday, you're going to see governments everywhere going broker and broker by the day. I know in a Hail Mary move, it looks like we have the crypto president now. Apparently that's the new jam. They think they're going to be able to introduce, I call it coin, or one of these other cryptocurrencies that is going to change the banking system, and it's going to deflect a failure of the dollar, but that is not the case at all. And they think if they replace it with crypto, then they can use cryptocurrency worldwide, and then they don't have to worry about the dollar, and their inability to issue any. But that is definitely not the case. We've talked about this many, many times, and all of you that have been following, but in brief, most of the world doesn't even have consistent electricity, let alone consistent electronic systems to handle a fully electronic payment system. The blockchain can't handle it. SuperNAP can't handle it. The NSA, who actually runs all crypto, can't handle it. They've tried repeatedly to install it. China's tried their cryptocurrency and their BRICS currency, and everybody has failed. The Bank for International Settlements tried using a program called mBridge that also has failed. There is no way to run an entire world on cryptocurrency in short order, number one. And number two, the key integrated monetary system will not permit cryptocurrency to be the world's trade currency, mainly because of its origins. Number one, it's highly insecure. I know that for a fact. The bottoms up and bottoms down of Trump coin, or whatever they're calling it. First, he's not involved with it. Then, he's never heard of it. And then it's Millennia coin all of a sudden. And, they're trying to take money from people every which way but loose. Now he all of a sudden is now the crypto president. Well, at the same time, we're not having any central bank digital currency system, which is what he told the World Economic Forum. I almost feel like we have a bipolar situation there, and there should probably be some kind of a checkup for all of those people, because nobody knows what anybody's doing at this point in time. To make matters worse, there was a horrific crash. You've heard about the helicopter crash in Washington, D.C., where it crashed into an American Airlines passenger plane, and there were many fatalities on the passenger plane. On a Blackhawk helicopter, which, quote unquote, initially accidentally ran into a really large airplane. Now, for those of you veterans out there that have flown a military helicopter or two, or maybe seen one or been in one, you'll know that that is damn near impossible for that to have been an accident. You would have to override every system that is in that Blackhawk. Then someone tried to tell us a story that, well, it wasn't that airplane they were after. There was an airplane behind that airplane that was a threat or something. And so they accidentally hit the wrong plane. I mean, I've heard it all in the last few days. But here's the story that I'm hearing from the electronics that night in the helicopter itself. The pilots of the helicopter do their job. Why on a Blackhawk? I'm not sure. But they were transporting some of the Trump operatives from one place to another. Well, the Trump operatives were having a conversation in the back, which sounded like anarchy and terrorism. They were talking about the possibility of, now remember, this person doesn't know anything about what you know. They don't know anything about, the pilot doesn't know anything about that, this is not a real president, that kind of thing, just a patriot flying an aircraft because he's on duty. So they were talking about killing the now president, possibly staging an assassination, could be a terrorist attack. They're looking for a big distraction because of the failure of their failure in every aspect. And they're trying to find a way to implement martial law. That's their latest and greatest, I should say, repeat operation, which they're trying to sell to people. And for that, they need some kind of a big event. They were talking about killing a lot of American people on this craft. They were also talking about bombing potentially Washington, D.C. This is what the operatives were talking about. And this is who they are. They're worse than what they were saying with this pilot. So allegedly, what seemed to happen is the automatic features of the Blackhawk were overridden and the helicopter crashed. It looks like it's an intentional crash possibly by somebody who, let's just say, didn't want to see thousands, if not millions of Americans die. So I feel terrible about what happened to those families. I guess sometimes people panic and a split-second decision is made, but that's what it looks like from the outside looking in. I'll tell you, in war, if you've ever been to war, you've had family members that have been to war, real war is even worse than you could possibly imagine. Even though they may have been to Afghanistan or Desert Storm or Iraq and they've probably seen a lot of things, there is nothing like we have seen in the last couple of years. So, and this is a tragic event. The Secretary of Defense came out and made an interesting announcement yesterday. Pete Hegseth is his name. He said that the helicopter was on a mission to have a continuity of government or a continuity of government mission. Basically, what that means is that there is an emergency. There is a government or a division, I think it might be of the Department of Defense, called COG, which is continuity of government for short. And they are supposed to make sure the government continues to function. This is where your doomsday plane and all of these types of things come in. Should there be a emergency, a crisis, they're supposed to make sure that the government continues to function. And at this point, I don't think anybody knows what function is, meaning functional government at this point, because things are a total disaster over there. I mean, just left, right, up, down, policy this way, policy that way, and none of it makes any sense. For example, in addition to trying to lay off many people that have worked for the government for decades, they also are demanding that you take all pronouns off all government emails by 5 p.m. today. Well, that makes sense. You're no longer Mrs. Somebody or Mr. Somebody. You're just somebody. I don't know why this is so important to pass an executive order for something like this when we have plenty of things going on, like fires in California. We have helicopters that have gone down and passenger planes that have gone down, with families that are experiencing losses. And of course, it is most important to make sure that you take the pronouns off all your emails by 5 p.m. today. That's a very real situation. Because, if that's what was happening in your life and this was your family, that would be the first thing you would think of. Wow, I find it very offensive that you put Mr. So-and-so or passed away or Ms. So-and-so passed away. And you need to make sure that you don't identify either way with anything in your funeral announcement. I mean, this is awful. It is the worst. It's even worse than I had ever anticipated so far, and it's only been, a little over a week now. It's been about 11 days. Okay, next thing I wanted to bring up. On Monday's interview with George the Iceman, and I should have that hopefully over the weekend. He's going to send them right over, he said, so he gets a little busy sometimes. We'll see. But I should have them in the next few days. But he brought up a news report that was on Fox News, and he mentioned about that report. Sorry, I'm really tired today, so please forgive me, folks. Okay, so he mentioned in his report, before he played the report, that these raids on immigrants are pretty brutal. Allegedly, there has been some additional executive orders made in which the government is supposedly, and I say supposedly government here, that they are permitted to raid homes and immediately deport illegal immigrants without any kind of a trial, without any kind of a holding, without asking any questions. And there's hurting a lot of people right now. It's actually really brutal, and And it's come to my attention in the last 24 hours that it's even worse. Because of Fox News actually being there to record the raids, you automatically know there's something weird going on. I mean, how would they know when a covert, quote unquote, FBI, etc., U.S. Customs and Borders Patrol organization is supposed to be in a specific place in the middle of the night, and they're just happen to be there to film it because, they hang out at various illegal immigrant homes, alleged illegal immigrants' homes, and they just kind of hang out, and they know they're going to show up eventually, so they keep the cameras rolling, right? Probably not. So we did some digging, and here's what we have found. In the last 24 hours, we have figured out the following: that about 80 to 90% of the raids that are happening are not happening by official government departments, meaning it's not the Department of Justice, it is not Customs and Border Patrol, it is not the FBI, it is not any local law enforcement in any way, shape, or form. These are complete off-the-books black sites. People are being ushered to what we would call black sites or unknown locations, firstly within the United States, and it appears that they are selling these people. We strongly suspect, and again, we are suspecting and have indications that it's possible that the group known as the Boogaloo Boys are actually involved in this situation. Now, we definitely know that some of them are actually under the impression that they have government badges and they are doing what the president says. However, they are not legal agency people in a lot of cases. They are now starting to figure out that they are taking these people to strange locations, and there is also chatter amongst the group as we started listening in closer and closer. We are starting to figure out that Guantanamo Bay has allegedly been allocated money that the government doesn't have to expand their facility. Now, I'm going to repeat this again. Guantanamo Bay is not a place where people take terrorists and hang bad people known as the deep state or the cabal. That doesn't ever happen there, ever. The location is actually a secret space program site. They do a lot of surgeries there. They perform a lot of facial recognition, like changing your face. They also have superior medical technologies there, and you could call it a glorified med spa. There are also some human experiments that do happen there, but allegedly we're hearing that these people are in holding facilities, not awaiting deportation, immediate deportation, according to what the executive order says. They are awaiting transport there, possibly to sell organs. They have discussed the fact that that has been very profitable. This would not be the first time that they have done something like this. During the Iraqi war, I know that they're definitely, from someone's lips to my ears, who heard it personally, was a lot of talk from Mayor Rothschild about the fact that human organ trafficking made a lot of money, and they had every intention of illegally detaining people so that they could harvest their organs. They would never go back home. And then, this would continue, and then they would make lots of money to pay for the war. So I'm thinking they think they're going to be able to do that here, but this time the bill is a lot higher. And this is why Duck Dynasty should never try to run a country, because number one, this is extremely inhumane. Number two, legal or illegal human trafficking by the office of the President of the United States. They're operatives that are running it. That's really bad. Really, really bad. Next, we're now locating all of these facilities and plan on a very quick remedy, let's just say, to this situation that is going on behind the scenes. And I can really not say much more about that, but I'll just say that the investigation has proven that we are correct and these people are not going back to their home countries. This is definitely an issue. So that is something else that we've been working on quite a bit, because I got to tell you, I don't know who these operatives think they are. I really don't. They're absolutely insane. And although hopefully not for much longer, organ trafficking and human trafficking is a multi-billion-dollar industry. It is still not going to pay for a war. It is not going to pay your bills, because they've got a lot of bills. They made a lot of promises and have made absolutely zero delivery on anything, not to any country anywhere. This is not going to cut the mustard. It is not going to take care of their tenuous situation at the moment. Behind the scenes, we have, or I should say Tom Melville, because these people don't have any will or courage to talk to me directly. So they call Tom Melville. Well, they've been calling Tom and, saying that they're arranging for the little plot of land over here in La Plata County, Colorado, to become, sovereign land. And, the lawyers are drawing up papers, and I don't know, they must be writing them blindfolded with their feet because it's taking forever, but that's lawyers for you. And, supposedly they want to make some kind of a deal. We've heard the same thing from the Fed and the banks, but then, of course, no decisions are actually made by anyone ever, and they tell everybody just to wait, and for some reason, everybody does. So there's that. Quite frankly, it's just a distraction. Saving people, saving lives is not a distraction. But what they're asking us for is, or one day they're going to do this and they're going to do that, and then they never do, is just indicative of spending 3.5 years talking to the same people. They make promises, they never ever deliver. They promise to pay people, they never ever pay people. And matter of fact, they usually go off the handbook of Bush Sr. Bush Sr. was well known throughout the operative community for getting countries and people to do things for free. Matter of fact, he stepped up his game along with Blackwater and started handing out pallets of cash to countries, promising that they would be cashable at some point in the future. And some of them have been waiting 4 decades or more to cash in these pallets. And this situation is going to be the same. These people think they are clever. They think that they are better than Bush Sr. And I have got to tell you that during those times, we didn't have YouTube, and we didn't have a lot of these, channels and worldwide calling. And it was very expensive, and we didn't have social media. We didn't have the ability to call country to country as easily as we do now, as long ago as that started. So, if these people continue to wait and all these countries continue to wait, I wish them all the best, and we won't have governments anymore, because we're starting to see the faltering already. I know that the talk behind the scenes is that the Russian government is just a few steps away from bankruptcy. I know that there's supposed to be some talks with China tonight, which I hope don't actually happen, because they would like us to talk to other countries too, such as Indonesia and so on and so forth. Why? Because here we go again. you know, we know these people, we're getting our money from those people. And that is definitely not the case. We have no contracts with China. We have no intention of doing any contracts with China, not the US, not China, not any government anywhere at this moment in time. We have no talks ongoing. Nobody has put forward anything that makes any sense anywhere. And we're really not interested, and we're more interested in moving forward with care in the people. So, on that note, their window is closing, and it's closing rapidly. By tomorrow, we are going to see a lot of fighting and arguing amongst all of those people. You might even see some of this stuff starting to leak out in mainstream media because they can't seem to control that much anymore either, no matter how many people quit or get fired from NBC, CBS. I hear reporters are dropping like flies these days. Yeah, they get paid a lot of money, you know. They normally get paid a lot of money to talk crap to you, and that money's not coming, and people are getting angry. You know, it's the mainstream media news channels aren't making a whole lot of money these days. I mean, they're still making some kind of advertising money, but you know, there's not a lot of money right now floating around there, and they're barely making payroll in some cases. I did, you know, again, this is deep state corporations. The trickle down moves fast. When BlackRock, Vanguard, and State Street start to falter, you're going to see a lot of corporations that would feed off of those few hedge funds just start to fail quickly. So we'll see what takes place in the next couple of weeks. Again, we're still in that bumpy period of time for more than one reason, and this is just one. So hang on to your hats. Everything that you've been hearing about for the last year or two is starting to come to fruition. It takes a little while, you know, for us to turn the tides a little bit. We have some planned operations for this weekend, which I probably can't talk to you about till Monday, which will, let's just say, maybe help that along a little bit. We have a few things that we are doing on our side that are going to be a lot of fun for me. Be nice to have a little fun once in a while. So we'll leave it at that, and we'll continue that in the end result of those things on Monday and Monday's report. Okay, now let's get into the weird and wonderful world that we live in, and sometimes not so wonderful. So we've talked quite a bit about a transition that started sometime around the end of October and continued on through till the end of the year. There are a few more transitions that are taking place currently. And one of those transitions has a lot to do with reversing the ability, I guess you would say, reversing time. And this portion started, I would say, right around the time of the summer solstice. And we had a lot of resistance at that time. And I'm not talking about resistance by crazy operatives or anything. These are things that were put in place to specifically not allow us to reverse this cycle. Now, remember, time is a flow. It's not just about what you see on your watch. It's not about what day of the year it is. Time also dictates things like aging, decay, disease. It controls a lot of different things, or had controlled a lot of different things in the multiverse, including your mitochondria and why they go in the wrong direction, your everything within your human rotating in the wrong direction which is unhealthy. Not only did that happen here, that also happened to Earth as well, which is why, don't get me wrong, we've done enough damage as humans to the planet, meaning, carbon dioxide, that type of thing. And then, of course, we had a lot of alien tech, and we have had things like weather manipulation, and that's been going on a lot longer than we've had militaries and governments. That is not something that was controlled by militaries and governments, contrary to popular belief. And HARP was a kindergarten toy compared to some of the other things that were out there. These were predominantly used by others. They were not used by governments, or maybe they had minimal access to move things here and there. And of course, that was all due to the connection of something that was created long before their existence. So, in the same fashion, the control of time, if you've ever seen an old movie, I'm going to say it's old, but I think it was from the 90s or the early 2000s, and it was called Lara Croft, the first Lara Croft movie. And in that movie, the deep state, or Illuminati, as they call themselves in the movie, were trying to control time. And they said in the movie, there was a specific time, an alignment of sorts, if you will, where if you could be in this certain place with all these certain trinkets at the right time, you would be able to control time. Now, of course, there's a little bit of truth in that as to what they thought they were going to be able to do. So, starting around the solstice time, this is the reality of what was really going on, and then we'll give you a little bit to laugh about with the order. But starting from that time, you can think, if you were to look at the world and you were to see a spinning wheel, a black spinning wheel that was spinning in a clockwise fashion. Doesn't matter which angle you look at the Earth from, whether you're looking at it from the side to north to south, or you're looking at it directly down at the North Pole or up from the South Pole, you're still looking at Earth and a time wheel. It was a three-dimensional wheel, so to speak. And it wasn't just for Earth, it was something that happened through a lot of the universe too. I'm not going to say all, but a lot. And this type of a structure, etherically speaking, is what perpetuated life moving in the wrong direction. So we were moving away from life and closer to death. It is also part of a black magic system that used to be used against us, not just by humans, but also by those people of the seal, Marduk, Inky, Enlil. This would be something that would have been used by the black magician. And a lot of it had to do with human control, incarnation plans, not allowing humans to live too long, only to produce so much energy. It's kind of, you got to think about the way they looked at humans, like you would look at, say, your laptop. If you are running low on battery and you don't have the ability to quote unquote plug in, or you're running down your battery faster than you could charge it, eventually you're going to get into a point where you're going to have to kind of conserve some battery in that laptop a little bit anyway till you could get to a charger. With humans, they would siphon off as much as possible to keep us alive. They wanted to make sure that they would siphon so they could power other creations elsewhere, power other worlds, if you will, other universes. Again, you don't realize how powerful you are as a human. But this was definitely a mechanism that was in place to ensure your survival for a minimal amount of time. They had determined that X amount of people gives them X amount of power. In fact, there were over 14 million alternative universes that were being terraformed based on the amount of energy that they would siphon off of humans. I mean, pretty incredible when you think about it, how much source energy that you could actually generate. And then, of course, pay forward and give energy to things like creating and energy to other people and to your family. But it's pretty amazing that we're all still even here, really, with the amount that they siphoned off of us. So the time wheel is a part of that cycle. It's not the only reason why it exists, but it exists to ensure that the regulation to ensure that you were staying alive to some degree, or at least there was enough people to power all of their quote unquote creations into perpetuity, was based on the population of humans on Earth. So reversing time, or the flow of life, so to speak, was extremely important as a part of restoration. We cannot be restored if we constantly are spinning in the wrong direction, all the way down to your mitochondria. So this is not just for humans, because what happens on Earth happens everywhere else. And so everybody was subject to some degree. Of course, the higher the density, the less they were subject to something like this, but it would still affect all life in some way. So this was something that started the reversal process sometime around the solstice time. But it's been kind of a fight as we created equal and opposite ways of movement of, let's just say, the atomic clock, uh, the way that your mitochondria moves, that type of thing. The way the life cycle of earth and plants and trees and everything functions. It was critical that we saw a change in movement. So we've been, I guess you could say, installing something that is trying to push all life in the opposite direction. So if time is trying to push us what you know as a clockwise motion, we are trying to push it in a counterclockwise motion, because that's where eternal life exists. That is where immortality exists. That is where you're constantly regenerating. And it's also where nobody's going to be able to siphon anything to build alternative universes and worlds anymore either. Most of them dark, by the way. So it was critical we also do this for Earth, because what happens with Earth then eventually travels throughout the multiverse. So this push and pull and tug has just been one aspect of operations that we have been performing with the Creator AI, of course, in cooperation with Source, and we have been taking steps to ensure that we're not having major disruptions. So what it kind of looks like right now is, it looks like, or looked like, if you were to be walking forward and someone were to stand in front of you and put their hand on your chest and say, you're not going anywhere, and you keep trying to walk, and you might be able to overpower that person, for a while, but you're not moving really fast at that point. If you were to remove that person, you would be running right across the street or wherever you were going. And Earth looks the same way. It's been a push and a pull and a push and a pull and a push and a pull. We would make further progress in going in the counterclockwise motion. Then some space junk would show up and we'd start moving slower again, and then we've got to push that out of the way, get rid of the resistance, and then we would see more of a push in the other direction. Now, what happened on Wednesday was something the deep state was hoping was going to happen, I guess you would say. They even tried to utilize old energy siphoning methods to appease the gods that aren't there anymore, I guess, in order to send energy out to other universes, as we had talked about earlier in the week. I think it was earlier in the week, a little bit. Uh, so in this particular instance, we hit a little bit of a bump. And by bump, one of the covenants that recently expired had to do with the agreement with the Black Magician. Now, Black Magician is a title, much like Marduk was a title. And as Black Magician, you normally would be one of the 72 dukes of hell that you would see, in the Bible, I guess, and other mythology. And that position would rotate in accordance with what was going on. But you could say he would have been the lord of the anti-creation, for a time, and the netherworld, along with other potential terraforming universes. So that was what he would use that for. Now, he came into the picture one other time recently. I say recently, and I use that term loosely, about 3 million years ago. And I didn't get to finish the Real History series, which we will do at some point. But about 3 million years ago, we had another hiccup like we've had recently, where the agreed amount of energy was not flowing to its or his creations. Now, although that being doesn't exist anymore, the dead man switches, or if you default on my agreement, I am going to wipe out all of creation kind of thing, is what was triggered on Wednesday night. So apparently, the deep state was under the impression, or at least the secret space program operatives were under the impression that, and some of the order members too, they were under the impression that when we got to this point where we started moving in the correct direction, all of life started moving in the correct direction towards a non-siphoning way of life, so to speak, and toward, which hasn't been happening for a while now, and moving into the direction of no disease, living longer, that type of thing, then they thought that a black magician would come back. Now, the last time the black magician came back, also known as the Destroyer, was about 3 million years ago, when there was another incident where we almost came out of, let's just say, slavery. And he crashed into Earth, came out through Ukraine. So not a surprise over there that the Ukraine war has been going on forever, because it generates dark energy, which then they think will open portals, and they probably would welcome this being here on Earth because it's their friend, they think, anyway. They've been conjuring those folks for a long time, in their history, at least in the deep state's history. So in this particular instance, they were hoping for a return based on their calculations, based on our forward movement in the last several months of moving in the correct direction. They felt that the dead man switch would go off on the new moon, which, well, I got to hand it to them. At least, even a blind squirrel gets a nut once in a while. They were right. It didn't take us long, though, to counteract this stuff. We were pretty well done by maybe 2, 3 o'clock in the morning yesterday. So that's a positive. A little bit more cleanup today, that kind of thing. But now it's just real minor. It's just like little things that would show up in to human computer networks that didn't need to be there. It wasn't money or anything that they were expecting, and definitely wasn't a full reintegration of the Omega system or a reintegration of time systems or anything like that. So, it was pretty minor once you got through the worst part of it. And by the worst part of it, we mean there was his dead man switch. If anybody ever canceled that covenant that would power his worlds or their worlds, so to speak, uh, the dead man switch would have been installed into most stars and suns and planets in some cases, Earth being one of those planets, to whereby first thing he would knock out all the suns, meaning he would take all the energy from the suns, and that would be enough, according to him, to power his creations for quite a long time. Therefore, if you do not have a star, for those of you that do not know, in your galaxy, you die. All life dies. You need that energy in order to live. So that would have been catastrophic. There was another dead man switch that involved moons, just like happened before in Earth's history, where we lost our moon somewhere around 18,000 years ago. And then we got the one we have now, which was a giant space station, or kind of still is a giant space station. It's just not manned and it's not used for that anymore for the last couple years anyway, much to the deep state's dismay. But we do need it. Moon does control to some degree water. So as long as we're using it in a positive way, we need it at this moment until we can figure out, how to get something more natural. It hasn't been a major concern compared to all the other things going on. It's been neutralized, so that's a positive thing. So as far as this push and pull that went on Wednesday, yeah, he definitely put in a lot of automated time released, and I use the word time loosely here, time released space junk, and had definitely planned to blow this place. It's and many others actually at the same time. So that is why we were so busy on Wednesday. As far as trying to push us back, the deep state believed that they had until this morning, at least some of them, to see a movement in the other direction again. They also thought that because that happened 3 million years ago, apparently they have this knowledge, because that happened 3 million years ago, it could most certainly happen again now. They felt in some way that this would restore power for them. They also tried to exit to the nether world most recently, and now we know why. Of course, they were always promised that they'd be kings somewhere else, and yeah, maybe they'll realize what we've realized. Most demons are full of it, they really are. They don't tell the truth, and they had no intention of fulfilling those promises. And now the deep state is stuck here with the rest of us. So congratulations, folks. But as far as anybody returning, there was nobody to actually return. It was a matter of a preset bomb, so to speak, that would have went off. Kind of like a landmine does. It could be sitting there dormant for years, and the wrong person comes along and steps on it, and boom, there it goes. And it was kind of the same thing with the covenant that expired. The fact that there was no longer any energy going to any of those worlds set off an automatic trigger. That's really all it was. For the deep state, I'm sorry you guys didn't get any visits from any demons that you think are your friends. And they did try, though, to be fair. So as the new moon started happening on Wednesday, they were all chanting quite a bit, especially after dark. They particularly like to run around in circles with skirts on and so on and so forth after dark, with waving crystals around. And all hail Satan, or whatever it is they say in various languages, the destroyer, the black magician, or whatever, you know. And they could have been singing, an old song called Baby Come Back for all I know. But but there was a whole lot of chanting going on. So we did find a couple of groups, all in the same location, and you never give up a good opportunity to get rid of a bunch of pedophiles and Satanists. So away they went. But we, of course, didn't get them all, unfortunately, mainly because they were so far spread out. They were unsure which location he was going to return to. So there were some chanters in the Democratic Republic of Congo, Uruguay, and they thought that those two were their best bets. There were several locations around the world where they could have gone. They felt that most of those were dormant. I know that there were a lot of visitors from the SSP up in Nova Scotia at a ridiculous hour this morning, sometime around 1:30 my time, looking for something to have arrived there, apparently in their favor. So they're always looking for somebody else's stuff, and not to say that they don't have knowledge of things that happened in the past, but again, it's knowledge and it's not wisdom, and things have changed. So they wonder why they keep continuously failing. This is the reason why. You have knowledge of the past, they have knowledge of things that could potentially happen that don't actually happen. But when you have wisdom, you have the ability to stop all that. You have the knowledge, you have the wisdom to see it coming. You are given warnings by source when something is coming. And I'm sure a lot of you get those inklings too. It's not quite to this degree. Maybe it is for some of you. But I know that a lot of you get that little bit of intuition, oh God, I really got to go to this particular place on this day. Or don't let me forget to call so and so. Or I don't feel comfortable with sending my kids to this school. Or I don't feel comfortable where I am right now, and I probably need to leave, or it's going to rain today, and traffic's going to be terrible. So, I know I'm going to get into a traffic jam. I got to be careful of an accident. Maybe you had a vision of one or something like that. So you have your own version of wisdom, which is only going to get better as we have less resistance. But there are many of you that do a lot with wisdom. There are many things that I know that all of you are capable of, and I've talked to a lot of you here and there about these types of things, and we're all very resourceful. We're a very resourceful race, and we're still here. So the deep state has been tremendously disappointed. They still believe that it's possible for this to happen until the exact time of the new moon, which I think is sometime around 7:30 a.m. tomorrow morning. I guess that's within the 3-day window. They've obviously got to know that things are spinning back in the right direction now. So we're going in the right direction, which means that the time window has passed. Some of them do know. I know they do try to tell the secret space program operatives this. Not like they actually listen to anybody but their own selves. And then this is trickling down to their promises of big payouts on Wednesday, possibly on Friday, delaying operative calls till 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time tomorrow morning because they still think they have a shot, even though all indicators on a quantum physics level will tell them otherwise. So unfortunately, this is the way that governments decide to run their world. This is the way operatives decide to run their world. And their paychecks, from the operatives on up and on down, are all dependent on an alignment with Uranus and the possibility of a demon coming back to help the deep state. Doesn't get any funnier than that, except for I definitely wish I could get some kind of film that I could share with you on the GIA report of these grown men dancing around in skirts and doing really strange things with crystals because, you think you found the funniest TikTok video in the world. You ain't seen nothing compared to this because it's hilarious if you ask me. It's definitely quite funny, but nonetheless, not very fruitful. And, just as a quick reminder, for those of you that are concerned about stuff like that, remember the dark side has to conjure something to a make black magic work. They are not acting within nature, therefore their magic, so to speak, is limited. Meaning, if there's nobody there controlling the puppets in the puppet show, then the puppets are not going to pop up. If you've got a hand puppet and they have to act out this little kid show, and there's no hand there, then there's no puppet. And that is the biggest thing they have to get past, is that their demon friends don't come, the black energy doesn't come, even though they try to create darkness, desperation, despair, and lack in humanity. We still survive. And even that dark energy here and there, when it's created, doesn't generate anything for them. There's nobody home. These species don't exist in a golden age, and Source is making sure of it. So there's not a whole lot that these guys can expect at this point, these men and women that believe in these crazy things. Although, maybe we will have them dance around like that, when we open our converted UN building into the care facility in New York at some point, because it's funny, it's kind of comedy. Make them dance around like that, but no, that makes us no better than they are, I guess, huh? All right. But nonetheless, again, if there's nothing to conjure, there is nothing that's going to come and install a computer system for them. See, they're dependent on AI systems that are created by other beings. They did not create these AI systems. They had limited access to these AI systems. They could feed the AI systems with energy and feed the aliens human flesh and other things that they did in the past. But again, they didn't actually create it. So on our end of it, we actually created it. Like we built it. Blood, sweat, and tears built it. Built the first one a long, long time ago, and then built this one most recently. Therefore, we understand fully how it works. It's not dependent on deep state people. We didn't conjure anything to make it happen. It is quantum physics and a whole lot of source. Let's put it that way, and permission to work in accordance with natural law, things that are natural within nature, not the natural law, and the straw man thing and all that kind of stuff that you see on the internet. I'm talking about universal natural law here. So because we work within that way, we are able to build a system which will help with genesis of the universe and help with repair and changing DNA blueprints and all of the other things we've been working really hard on without the resistance that we've had in the past. So, to my knowledge at this moment in time, I should say my wisdom at this moment in time tells me that the door is completely closed already. However, we're going to have some people yelling, running around, yelling and screaming for a little while, and then they're going to have to get on a meeting tomorrow morning with all their friends at 10 a.m. and face the music. They will all be delayed. Countries will be delayed. There will be no more funding. I don't know if there's another alignment they're planning on trying to sell these people, push them off until March, maybe. Maybe there's an equinox special that demons put out. I've not seen one yet, but maybe they think there could be one by then. But as far as this once in 3 million year Laura Croft like alignment where they could control time, Yeah, that time's over. No more dead man switches, no more beings, hopefully no more space junk, and onward and upward humanity and Earth go. So that's a positive thing for us. It's bit by bit, piece by piece. It's like diffusing a universal bomb. If you haven't seen that Lara Croft movie, it's a pretty good movie. I've seen it a couple times. I think there's two or three of them out there, but this particular one I think is the first one. Angelina Jolie's in it, and it's about the Illuminati trying to control time. So that was the theme for the last few days, for sure. And they failed in the movie, and they'll fail. Oh God, now I ruined the movie if you haven't seen it. But they failed in the movie, and they're going to fail. They failed miserably by this afternoon as well. So onward and upward. Hopefully, it'll be a good weekend. I think we're still in bumpy territory, probably for another week or so. That's my opinion. We do have some fun that we're going to have this weekend as far as, let's just say, you know, we got some interesting things. I'm going to leave it at that. We'll leave that one for Monday's report. So, on that note, all of you have a wonderful weekend, and we will see you on Monday.